Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. One thing to keep in mind is that this session is being live streamed. So if you ask a question or you make a comment, we will either need to repeat it for everyone online to hear it, or we'll just run you a microphone and you can talk it right into the microphone.
And also to our participants online, welcome. We are monitoring the chat, so please put any comments, questions in the chat, and we will make sure to verbalize those as well. So welcome, and we're doing our best to make you, a part of this as well. So thank you for participating online.
Okay, so I also know we are directly after lunch, so I'm really hoping I don't end up with any foreheads on the tables with loud snoring, because I know that's where we are all kind of physically are right now. But hopefully this will be interesting and you'll be able to stay awake. This particular session is ICAPS, a successful training model in the state of Illinois. So that's what we're going to be talking about today is ICAPS. I am Angela Gerberding. Some of you I've met, some of you I haven't. I work at Illinois Community College Board. I'm the director of work-based learning, and I affectionately got named the queen of ICAPS a couple of years ago because I oversee the approval of that process at the Community College Board. Tara?
And I am Brittany Boston. I am with the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support. And so you'll see as we move through that CTE, Career and Technical Education, is also a partner for ICAPS. And so that's where our center comes into play, because we do a lot of professional development and training for career and technical ed.
And I'm Tara Schwab. I'm with the Southern Illinois Professional Development Center, and we support adult education programs throughout the state in creating, expanding, implementing all things ICAPS. And so our center works with all kinds of programs. We also work with Angela for the approval process for ICAPS programs. We do in-person trainings. We've had a few programs do some trainings with their adult ed and CTE people together this year. So think about that. We would love to do that as well. I've also had the pleasure of working with the American Institutes for Research to do some national work in IET. And we'll say this again, but ICAPS and IET are the same thing. ICAPS is just Illinois speak for IET. And so I've had the pleasure of working with some other states to also support their IET programs as well.
And she was asked to be part of that national team because we have been doing ICAPS in Illinois for 10, 12 years, depending on which college, which program, how long you've been doing it. And so we're one of the front runners in the country with ICAPS or IETs, that the national level programs come to us and go, hey, how are you doing this? Can you speak to that? But with Tara being able to help with some of those other states, she's brought back ideas to us and said, hey, I heard this really cool thing that's going on in Iowa or Missouri or Texas or California. And I'm like, ooh, let's explore that further. So it's been beneficial all the way around to be able to help with those things. The agenda today, rationale, what is an ICAPS, very basic level. If you're here to get all of the details of an ICAPS, you're in the wrong session. This is not an ICAPS 101 ground to floor kind of thing. This is really about the training model as it sits and why all of the titles here at this summit should be involved, could be involved, can be involved with it. Who's part of an ICAPS, what ICAPS are in Illinois, WIOA and ICAPS, and then ICAPS and me. So there's a whole lot of acronyms up there. Hopefully we're all used to those.
And so our next slide is that first from the agenda, the rationale, and we'd really like to hear from you on this. So we'd like to know, what is your motivation for coming today to learn more about ICAPS? So we'd like you to take a second to think, and then also please share. So virtual attendees, please share in the chat. And if anyone here would like to share, we'd love to hear a little bit about, what's your motivation for coming today to talk and hear more about ICAPS. And we'll run the mic over to you, remember, so that virtual attendees can hear.
I think I just want to hear other ideas and how to increase enrollment in our ICAPS program, because we've seen the impact it has on student lives.
Wonderful. What a great start. Thank you.
I would just say I have not worked with students that are veterans, but I want to make sure that I'm able to assist. Or I think of things as I encounter it, so working with even disabled individuals or students with like learning disabilities. So I think that would be beneficial for my future clients.
Wonderful, yes. And our ICAPS programs are able to partner and support students, from all those populations. So yeah, thank you.
Brittany said there was somebody in chat.
Oh, no, I just said I'm monitoring.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Couple more. What's your motivation for coming today to learn more about ICAPS?
Okay, that side of the room's winning. This side of the room, anybody want to say anything?
Yeah, 2-0. This side bet. Oh,
we're
now
going
it's going to be 3.
Hi, I'm new to ICCB program, so I'm here to learn more and then also support my colleague.
Oh. Love that. Thank you.
Okay, so we do have a couple people online. We have an ETPL coordinator, and so they make sure the WIOA portion of ICAPS programs meets all the guidelines. And then we have someone from WIOA 2, and they work with their Title II partner on this program at McHenry County College. And so looking for more ideas and ways to assist students.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. We just wanted to kind of toss around some ideas. And also, as we move through the presentation, we can kind of, curtail some of our comments and thoughts to those as well. So thank you. And now Angela is going to tell us a little bit more about ICAPS and IET. ICAPS are IET, but we do have some special considerations in Illinois as well. So she'll explain that now.
Sure. So some of you have heard IET, Integrated Education and Training, and that's a national level terminology. It really came about from the Illinois State Plan, the Perkins Illinois State Plan, because there's lots of state plans. Depending on what program you're working with, there's probably a state plan on how to implement that. And with Perkins, 5 is what funds a lot of, is in Illinois is what funds the CTE programs at the community colleges. And so part of their specific state plan on how are we going to implement this in Illinois was by using ICAPS. And so they are exactly the same thing. They mean there's no difference between the two. When we first came out, there was lots of confusion. They're the same. But if you talk to someone from another state, like we talked about, Tara has worked with other states, they talk about their IETs, or she says something about ICAPS, and they go, you're what? Oh, sorry, I meant IET. So they are the same thing. ICAPS stands for Integrated Career and Academic Preparation System, and that is why we call them ICAPS, because that is a mouthful. But it is the career and the academic integrated together system that's putting them together. It's Illinois' version. Illinois requires additionally from the federal level, we're going to talk in just a minute about what those requirements are, but Illinois also added a collaborative teaching requirement to what the federal level requires. And it's not because we were sitting around ICCB one day bored with nothing else to do and thought, how can we make this complicated? It's because it's a best practice. When you have collaborative teaching, you now have 2 teachers as resources for the students. So say Ginger knows one piece of information and Gina knows a different piece of information, now that students got access to both. And they're working together to get everything curriculum-wise aligned, and so it really is a best practice that we just made it an additional requirement in the state of Illinois. And again, as I said earlier, these have been utilized since approximately 2012. At that point, they weren't called ICAPS yet. It was part of the Accelerating Opportunity? It was the AO a lot of time. And so then once that particular grant ended, we said, these are really good. We need to continue doing these. What are we going to name them? And that's when it rolled over to ICAPS. So ICAPS hasn't been around as long, but it's, again, the same model that we've been doing. So who should be participating in ICAPS? Not from the student level, because, and forgive me, I've got 20 years in a classroom, so they're all students to me. But some of you work with clients and customers. same people. So we're not talking about those who should be involved in ICAPS. This question is aimed at us in the room. Who should be at the table having these conversations? What do these look like? The planning, the helping, the implementing, possibly funding, doesn't have to be. Through the WIOA, earlier I talked about the Perkins State Plan. This is from the WIOA State Plan, from the federal pages, from the federal plan, and how is Illinois going to implement the WIOA law. And on pages 66 and 67, I don't really want to read you this paragraph. We're all educated readers, we can read this. But really, it's all of the core WIOA partners, and it says that they will all engage with the community colleges, adult ed providers, and area career and technical education schools through the support of WIOA customers enrolled in Bridge and ICAPS training. So really, everybody can be, should be somehow involved, whether it's Title I, that's making referrals of customers to an ICAPS, whether it's adult ed, that's referring over to IDES and Title III because they've got a student that's unemployed that needs some additional help, whether it's Department of Rehab Services in Title IV that has students with disabilities, but they are totally capable of doing the training. They refer them to adult ed to get them the help that they need in this training. So it really is across all four partners, which is why we wanted to share this model with everyone today to say, this is already here, it's already established, this isn't new, we're not figuring this out, we're not piloting this, we're done with the pilot side. This is implementing and we're making it happen. And there's a link to the plan if you need it on the slide deck, which is part of, it's already in HUVA.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so what are the components of an ICAPS? And as Angela said, we're not taking too deep of a dive into ICAPS. There's some additional ICAPS sessions that are taking place today, and if you have not heard of the Forum for Excellence, that would also be a great conference for you to attend because we have a lot of information and sessions about ICAPS there as well, but we're gonna give a really kind of high-level overview. So when we're talking about ICAPS, there's three required pieces. There's the adult education services, and a lot of times this takes the form of that support class for our students, as well as developing those workplace skills or employability skills. I think at one point in time they were called soft skills. We've revamped what they're being referred to on a continual basis. And the workforce training. So that is your on-the-job training, your apprenticeship. I think we've got, clinicals is in there as well as additional CTE coursework. So all of those three components combined is part of what makes up your ICAPS. And then there's also that collaborative teaching component that Angela touched on a little bit. We're not going to go too deep into that because if we want more information on ICAPS, we can go a little deeper at some other time. But for high-level overview, that collaborative teaching is where that adult ed and CTE piece kind of merges together, and they work together to support the students. And then Angela mentioned the WIOA State Plan. And so this is all part of the WIOA State Plan. It's part of Perkins 5. It's part of adult ed, which is why those are all the required components for an ICAPS program.
Questions on that before we move on? Yep.
Yes, Mark Burgess with Title I. I think for many of you, if you're local, we're talking state plan. You also have to understand how that ties to your local and regional plans. So you would want to be looking at those as well, not just look at what that is here at the state level.
Thank you, Mark. And keep in mind, like I said, I've got 20 years in a classroom. I work at ICCB. I've got one lens on this, but I am not in adult ed. I am in the workforce education division. So while I oversee this, I'm not biased to adult ed or CTE or Title I or Title III or Title IV. I'm kind of a step out of it and can look at all of it. So if you've got perspectives like that, thank you, Mark, for sharing those, please. That's where we need that information. Again, collaborated and shared to everyone. Brittany.
Okay, so this is where we go a little bit, take another step down, and when we're talking about ICAPS. So when we talk about ICAPS, we have two models. We have a Model 1 and a Model 2. So we're kind of laying out the difference here. So when we're talking about Model 1, students earn a college credit, they get that industry recognized credential, and typically they are connected to a community college. And so that's kind of where that CTE piece comes in. And then when we're talking about Model 2, they also get an industry recognized credential, but there is no college credit. And so this can be connected to a community-based organization, and ROE, which I believe stands for Regional Office of Education. Got it. So many acronyms, so hard to keep them straight. Or a high school program. Now, we do have programs that do Model 2 and also connect it to a community college, but that college credit piece is not a part of the puzzle. So I kind of also want to pause there and see if there's any questions when it comes to Model 1 versus Model 2.
And while you're thinking of your question, let me give you an example of how a community college might do a Model 2. Phlebotomy is very commonly done as a Model 2 because phlebotomy from the community college side does not have enough credits to be a full-blown program of study. So it doesn't live on the credit side of the house. It lives on the non-credit or the community ed side or wherever that is. So the students that are finishing the phlebotomy, they're getting jobs, they're getting the training, they're doing everything, but they're not earning college credit with it. So it makes it a Model 2 instead of a Model 1. But again, CBOs or high school districts, Illinois Department of Corrections, they are an adult ed funded program and they are obligated to run ICAPS as well, and they do. Most of theirs are through one of the colleges that they work with, so most of theirs are Model 1. But community colleges, and Tara's gonna talk about some examples that we've got, but some of the community colleges work with, community-based organizations work with a local training provider. We have one that works with a chef school. They are that training piece on that workforce training requirement piece. They've got the adult ed support course. They are all doing the workforce training. That's an ICAPS Model 2 because there's no college credit attached to it, but the students are getting a credential at the end. Those students are actually, I'm gonna steal Tara's thunder, so I'm gonna stop there. But there are multiple ways and multiple versions of what an ICAPS can look like. And so if you've been around a while, some of us have been here a little longer than others, and I'll just stop there. But in 2012, when we started, we only had Model 1s. We didn't even have a Model 1, it was just what it was, at a community college with X number of credit hours required, period, end of discussion. And then we had some CBOs go, but wait, we want to try this. We got an idea, but we don't have a way to give college credit. What does that mean? And we went, oh, we need to have two different options on this. So that's when Model 1 and Model 2 came about. So out of need.
And some community colleges even do both. So for example, Oakton Community College, they have a Model 1 ICAPS in CNA, BNA, so nursing assistant, and then they also have a Model 2 ICAPS with a local truck driving company where students, so obviously that's a Model 2, it's not for college credit, but they partner and the adult ed teacher goes to the truck driving classes like once a week. And then at Oakton, they hold a support course where people work on their adult ed and literacy skills and workforce skills as well, and some content support. One second here.
So the non-credit, but at the college would be the Model 2, correct? Okay, thank you.
Yes, good clarification question. So anytime it's not credit, it's Model 2. So CBOs can hold a Model 2, community colleges can as well, definitely. So, and we have a lot that do both. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you can also be a community-based organization working with a community college that has a Model 1.
And we'll
if you're offering the support course and they're doing the training in welding and the students are earning college credit, that's Model 1. That's the entire difference between Model 1 and Model 2 is there college credit attached? Location does not matter.
And I know on the next slide, Brittany was also going to make a point and ask if there's any other questions, but we'll go ahead and answer one of the questions that's related in the chat. So in the Q&A actually, someone had asked, you know, ICAPS has changed a lot over the years, so where can I go to find the most updated information? We're going to mention the ICAPS website, but we have a whole website that's been recently updated. It's icapsillinois.com. So on that website, there's the approval form, there are many resources for building a syllabus, collaborative teaching, professional development meetings that you're all welcome to come to. We welcome all the core partners. We're all working together to create ICAPS. So we have ICAPS office hours, we have ICAPS virtual learning communities. So all that information is on the ICAPS website in addition to the ICAPS manual, which is updated yearly. And so that's probably the best place to go for updated ICAPS information.
And the question that was in the Q&A you mentioned is in the WIOA app, and I answered that question with exactly what she just said. Go to the ICAPS Illinois website. In the top right corner is the ICAPS manual. That lists the specific pieces, but again, ton of resources. So it's already in your WIOA app if you need that link to click on later next week.
Perfect.
Okay, so for our visual learners in the room, when we talk about ICAPS, I don't know how this came about, but a lot of times we use the imagery of like a road map or an interstate because there's various on and off ramps, and your location can differ based on, you know, where you want to go that day. So ICAPS leads to employment or additional post-secondary education or training. So again, you have multiple locations that you can end up at. You have multiple on and off ramps depending on, you know, if life is lifing and you need to take a beat, that works with our students as well. So this is kind of the visual that we use when we are referring to ICAPS to show those different paths that folks can take. And so I know we've been taking a lot of questions, but again, this is a very high from the sky sort of overview of ICAPS. Any additional questions or things that we covered that you just need some clarification on? And I love that one of our online attendees put the ICAPS website in the chat for folks. That's great.
Thank you.
Go team.
Okay, we'll keep rolling.
Okay, we have a list. One of my lovely jobs is maintaining a list of approved ICAPS across the state of Illinois. And this, like I said, this PowerPoint is in WIOA, so if you want to scribble down all these numbers, you can, or if you want to go back into it later and look it up, you can do that too. Totally up to you. If it's keeping you awake, write them all down. So currently, as of 4/25, which is when I built this particular slide, there were 221 approved ICAPS across the state of Illinois at community colleges, high school districts, regional offices of education, community-based organizations, and as I said earlier, Illinois Department of Corrections. We have 72 funded adult ed programs. Does that sound right?
69.
69. I told you I'm not in adult ed. I know it's around that number somewhere. They're not evenly split. It's not that every program has 2. Some have 2. Some have 15. The ones that have 15 don't run everyone every semester. So if you're one of those 2 colleges, don't feel like you're behind the ball. Some of them have been around for 10 years and they've kind of aged out and they just kind of exist on the books, but they don't ever use them. But some of them rotate through and they go, okay, this one's better for the fall semester. This is better for a spring semester. So they can rotate them so their students have more options and more ability to change as they, not change, to get further advancement in the career that they're looking for. So it just depends on the college what they do. These are based by career cluster. None of these numbers should really be shocking that manufacturing is where the largest number of ICAPS is right now. The state of Illinois does a lot of manufacturing across the state. Oh, I lied, healthcare is biggest. Again, not shocking. There's a lot of healthcare. And even within healthcare, we're not talking about just a CNA or a BNA. That includes phlebotomy, that includes some dental assistants, that includes EMTs, that includes
community health workers.
Workers.
We have a couple of new ones. There's even a new community health worker program in Chicago that's just been approved, and they partnered with Mount Sinai and Rush for their community health worker program. So those are growing. We've got quite a few of those now.
Yeah, medical coding, medical billing. So there's a variety of different, when you think health services, a lot of times people are like, oh, that's CNA. That is our most popular. But there's a lot of others. As other needs have come about, we've had those others as well. Information technology is next, transportation, distribution, and logistics. I always have to say that slower. There's 24 of them, but Joliet is huge, along with Rend Lake. I mean, you're talking really close to interstate intersections. Well, guess what? TDL, that's where those fall. I was on those major thoroughfares. Architecture and construction, education and training. Some of the education and training ones more recently have been in the paraprofessional area. Because we've got some that have been, school systems were short teachers, and so if they're able to move some of their aides into teachers, now they need the aides. Well, how do you get a paraprofessional certificate? How do we do that? And so we've had programs figure that out. Many of them, all of those so far are, I want to say Model 2. I don't think any of them are college credit yet. Some of them are at college, some of those are CBOs or high school district. High school district's kind of the prime place to put those, because your high school district has your high school staff and they know who they need and where they need them, and they've already got buy-in from the high school as to what these students can do. So paraprofessional is a newer one, and then you go on down the line. So it just kind of varies. That's where the website is linked, is on this page, because I think on the next page, no, we were going to go to the website here. Can you click on that website? I was like, hold on, I know we planned this. Maybe. Okay, if you scroll all the way to the bottom of this main page, there's 3 blue tabs. The bottom says ICAPS history, current bridge and ICAPS programs, and Illinois programs. If you go to the center one that says current bridge and ICAPS programs, when you click on that, you have the option of either bridges run in 25 or ICAPS run in 25. Now, keep in mind, this is a self-reported list. So this isn't like fully approved, everything's good to go, because some of them are piloting right now. But this is a self-reported list as to what programs are doing. So Mark goes back to the office on next week and goes, I need to find out what my local person's running. You can look on this list. Now, that may be correct, it may not be correct or current, because it may have been what they ran in the fall, but they didn't run it right now. They'll run it again in the fall. But you can get an idea as to what's happening in your area, if that's something you're interested in doing. That's one resource that's on that website.
Well, and I think too, while we're here, so the FY 2025 ICAPS manual, if you want to take a deeper dive in all the free time that I know you all have and want to take up some light reading, you can check out the ICAPS manual. And then the ICAPS toolkit is also a good location to go to find just some of the resources and really get kind of information about what ICAPS is and what that looks like. Now let's see if I can figure out how to get back to the slides.
Yeah, and I know I have difficulty sometimes thinking when I see FY versus PY. Remember, FY is 1 year ahead of a PY, which is what we tend to talk language in Titles 1 and probably 3 and 4. We don't always use the FY, so FY 25 is what we're in now, even though we call it PY 24. So.
Thank you.
Again, it takes a team.
Yes.
Yes, and most of that information is based off of Adult Ed, which is Title II. So fiscal year 25 runs July 1, 24 through June 30, 25. So that list is what's running or planned to run today or this past year. So.
Okay, I'm really excited for this part. So I'm going to tell you about some of the cool ICAPS programs that are going on around the state, and I'm going to try to work in some of those components that we talked about. So like, how are they doing the collaborative teaching, just to give you some ideas about, oh, maybe we can do that in our area, and they're all very different. But before I do that, I would love to give you all shout outs, because maybe some of you are part of ICAPS programs in your area, but I do know that right here, some of my peeps, I have to give them a shout out. We have some Shawnee Carbondale and former Adult Ed and now community partner, from our southern area who run an awesome entrepreneurship ICAPS. They use a nationally recognized certificate. They partner with their small business development centers, and that certificate is, again, industry recognized, and it's approved by the Federal Small Business Development Center. Their students just did a Shark Tank presentation about their business plans that they made up. So it's a really cool ICAPS program. So I had to give you a shout out. And they worked really hard on creating that and supporting each other in the area for this ICAPS program. So
can I
very
add something
commendable.
really quick, Tara? With the entrepreneurship program, when this first came to me, when Tara was part of it and first brought it to me, I was like, are you sure we want to, how does this really work? Because, as I said, I was in a classroom for 20 years, but I was in an ESL classroom. And so when she brought me this entrepreneurship, I'm thinking, the ladies that want to sell makeup, the ladies that want to make necklaces and jewelry. And I'm like, I don't know that that's really a full-blown entrepreneurship adventure we want to take them on. Then she sold me on it because part of this entrepreneurship is people that also want to start their own mechanic shop. They want to do their own bakery, open their own bakery. They want to open their own restaurant. And I was like, okay, I'm thinking too small scale for this. I got to think bigger scale. And then there are students that do want to open those businesses and run their own bigger than, oh, look, I made some jewelry. So if you're in that mindset that I was, maybe take another look at that and see if it's something you do want to be part of.
Really, really neat program. And I'm glad Angela said that. And one reminder, and I'll try to kind of point it out as I go to tell you kind of the story of each of these groups. But when Brittany talked about the components of an ICAP, one component is that adult ed and literacy, so helping students to meet those goals. Adult ed serves second language learners, or English language learners, I should say. Some of them, it's their fourth or fifth. And we also serve ABE, ASE students who are ultimately going for many times their high school diploma. And so all those students can be part of an ICAPS. So in the adult ed portion, some students could be working on their English language acquisition to meet their adult ed and literacy goals, while others are, when I was an ICAPS teacher, I kept a chart. I had ESL students and GED students who's taken what test. Okay, now we have time to work on our adult and literacy goals. People are working on all kinds of different things. So all those populations can be a part of ICAPS programs. So at Literacy Chicago, that's our adult ed provider, and they have an ICAPS that is also a pre-apprenticeship. They partner with UCHI, which is Unite Hospitality Chicago, okay? And they Unite Here Hospitality Chicago. One more time, Unite Here Chicago Hospitality Institute. That spells UCHI. And they're a CBO, and they serve ELLs, so they serve English language learners. And they partnered with UCHI, which is a culinary organization. And actually, UCHI came to them. They said, we have a lot of second language learners. They're really struggling with, some of the vocabulary. Is there something that we could build together? And it's turned into an awesome program. They're on their 18th cohort or something. So when they are there, what happens is Literacy Chicago sends an adult ed teacher. She audits the class, so she sits in on the culinary class. And then after that training twice a week, she holds a support class where she helps them work on their adult ed literacy goals, their employability skills, and she does some reteaching, some vocabulary work and things like that with the students. And they get a certificate at the end of this intensive 8-week program. They get an industry recognized certificate, and then they move into 1,000 hours of apprenticeship work. And so they've also expanded to the point that they've built back, and Literacy Chicago holds a bridge class within Literacy Chicago that's 4 weeks that happens before they even go on to the ICAPS program, because they were able to build back. They looked at the data, they worked with UCHI. Okay, around week 4, we're losing people, what's happening? Well, they figured out they were really struggling with some of the knife skills and things that were happening in that week. So what they did is Literacy Chicago has a bridge that really focuses on some of those skills and vocabulary words that are around that time to prepare students to then go to UCHI and do this ICAPS. So that's a really neat program at one of our community-based organizations in the city. The next one's at IECC. They have a number of ICAPS programs, and one of their newest ones is broadband fiber optics. And so it's like the third ICAPS program of its kind in the nation. This is a Model 1 program. They do mostly Model 1s, and them along with a couple other people that I'll talk about. One thing to point out is what they did is they really worked with a champion in their CTE department, and they got the welding going. They got one ICAPS going that was really strong. They got the collaborative teaching component down. So this is about how much the adult ed instructor and the CTE instructor meet. This is how they meet. This is how they share grading. This is how we handle access to the learning management system. They kind of work through all those nuts and bolts. Usually the adult ed teacher goes once a week. Those classes are 2 to 3 times a week. They go at least once a week to audit the class. And so they got all that worked out, and then they applied that model to other ICAPS programs. So this next one is the broadband fiber optics. And so their students are able to work on a lot of different job sites with that. And the CTE personnel were really able to talk to each other. Oh, you do the ICAPS. Okay, yeah, we're thinking about doing it in my department. How exactly does that work? So then it's really able to grow. So it's worth that beginning part when you're really working out those nuts and bolts to kind of sit in that and take the time to build a successful model with your partners.
If you're wondering where IECC is, it's in the southeastern part of the state. So we are talking southern, more rural. So the broadband fiber optics fits in well with where they're at. They've got a large area, and they're expanding Wi-Fi down there big time.
Absolutely. And our next one, this is at Poder. This is at a CBO again in the city. And this is Latinos in Finance. And they partner with now 5 major banks. This was a national program that they worked with their partner on to create. And again, it's grown so much, and now they have other banks coming to them. They were able to work with this. It started with Bank of America, and so when students finish this program, they earn their certificate, and Bank of America directly, committed to hiring a number of their students. So this is a really strong example of an employer partner with ICAPS. So you can really kind of think about it from some different angles. It really started with the employer, and it built with the employer, and these students go right into employment. They had a need. We need bank tellers. We need bilingual bank tellers. What can we do? So they adopted this curriculum. They work closely with their partners, and that employer piece is an active part of the ICAPS program, which is amazing. And it really helps to refine the program as they move ahead as well.
So what did you find out about them most recently in the last couple of months?
That this is all over the country. Is that what you're, yeah?
Yeah. Bank of America has taken this to other locations outside of Chicago. It's in like 10 different locations, and they're doing it because it works. What else do you want me to say? It works.
I mean, yeah, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. Next, we have our Regional Office of Education 33, which is in Galesburg, and they partner closely with Carl Sandburg College. And so Angela had mentioned, sometimes we have a CBO or an ROE who works at the community college as well. And so they have paraprofessional. Is that what you're looking at? It's like on 2 lines. Yeah, it looks a little funny.
Yeah, I was like, what's an ONL?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, paraprofessional. I got it. Sorry.
And they do CNA. They also do a couple different types of an automotive ICAPS, so like brake, and then you know more about that stuff. But
Brakes,
a couple,
steering,
yeah,
alignment, couple not tires. Tires would be with alignment, but a couple different that they've worked with and built it.
yeah. And so they're an example of how to be creative with your model to make it work for your students and your organizations. So what they do is the instructor from ROE kind of lives at Carl Sandburg. He eats lunch there, he makes himself available, he audits a bunch of different classes. He's their main ICAPS support course instructor. So he goes to the CNA class, he's gotten to know the class over the years. So, now this is really important. The support class that he offers 2 to 3 times a week, I think they offer it once online to really try to accommodate students that come at night from different places because they are a large district, and a couple during the day. those support classes are open to the adult ed students who are in the CNA class, but they're also open to other students who are in the CNA class. The ICAPS training part, it can be its own standalone ICAPS, but people who are part of the ICAPS class can also be in that training program with other people from around the community, credit students, students who are not part of adult ed. But that support class is open for them to come. Sometimes that can really help with the partnership. Maybe you have a pre-apprenticeship program that you're considering, could this be an ICAPS as well? Well, maybe part of that partnership is the adult ed partner offers that support class and other people can go, if they're, especially at times of that class where they might need some vocabulary support and such. So he's gotten to know the curriculum and he knows, oh, they have this project coming up next week. Hey, make sure you bring your partners, even though they're not part of the ICAPS, they're not in adult ed, make sure you bring your partners for the project next week and I'll help you guys with that. And so that's become, and again, they've built that model and he now also supports students in the paraprofessional and the automotive ICAPS as well. And they do kind of some stacking to make it work in their schedule. And we can help you with that. Okay, what do you have? What does it look like? How can we build your schedule and your class to make it work for you? And then McHenry County, they're further north, and they've done a lot with their CTE partners. So they have a new director who walked into a warm relationship with CTE pre-COVID and pre-budget impasse. They really have been working to build it back. But the nuts and bolts were there with some of the people who were already there, but he really wanted to cultivate that relationship. So he called us at the beginning of this year and said, hey, can you come out here? We have some CTE instructors who are on board to kind of bring back some of our ICAPS. So we did an in-person training with CTE instructors, the CTE dean, and then administration and instructors from adult ed. And it really helped to be there with people. They could ask questions about ICAPS. What is it like now? How has it changed? So call us. We would love to do that, to help you and your partners learn more about ICAPS in person if that would be helpful. And so they started with CNA, with kind of bringing that back. Their transitions coordinator has worked really hard to make multilingual supports available for recruitment and such on their website. So they've really been working hard to expand that area. And they recently, one of my favorites, they recently added HVAC to their ICAPS offerings as well. Again, applying that model that they worked so hard on to another ICAPS. And they just use kind of the same scheduling, the same vibe, and so they've been able to expand those as well. So just to kind of give you a snapshot, they serve ESL and ABE, ASE learners all in the same ICAPS. And so again, they have different adult ed and literacy goals. They are in there under different tests, right? One's in CASA's, one's been tested with CASA's goals or TABE, but that's okay. That's just their pre and post tests. They can work on their individual adult ed and literacy goals and all be served in ICAPS. So, yeah. Does anyone have any questions about some of those peeps? Hopefully you're like, oh, that sounds cool. We have that in our area. We could make it an ICAPS.
And again, the purpose of explaining what some of those different models look like is because we know that sometimes it's like, oh, this is the only model. Nope, ICAPS looks very different. As I made the comment to somebody earlier, at ICCB, we kind of give you the mannequin of ICAPS, those required pieces, the collaborative teaching, what do you have to do? You get to dress it how you dress it. Whether you turn it into a pre-apprenticeship, whether you put it with banks and it ends up going national, whether you're working with your CTE side for credit or non-credit, you get to make that how it looks. So again, even if you're in Title I, 3, or 4, you can work with them to make it fit what you need it to fit. I mean, obviously, everybody's got their own requirements on what's allowable within their own title and what you get to count and what counts for success or not. But you can work together on what that looks like. Any questions from on chat? Okay, so I'm gonna move on. Why should I be part of ICAPS and not me? This is really, why should each of you be part of this? It increases co-enrollment, engagement, employment numbers, whatever you need to call it for your individual title. We're all looking to meet those metrics at the end of the year. We all have them. We all know we have them. Some of them we know we're going to hit. Some of them we're like, oh, well, this should be fun. But it helps if you're working together and the students are successful. Title I gets to count it, Title II gets to count it, Title III gets to count it, Title IV gets to count it, and then everybody gets a higher number. Woohoo!
For example, I was in a session yesterday and the person next to me has a construction pre-apprenticeship in her area, a JTED program. Some of the students are struggling with their basic skills, so they're basic skills deficient. That's what we do. Call us, we could work together. It could be an ICAPS program. ICAPS and pre-apprenticeship are a perfect marriage. So.
Yep. So it increases skill attainment. I mean, all of us are working towards having our students, clients, customers, whatever we call them, move forward. So whether it's move into employment, move into further education, ICAPS is one way that they can build those skills with the support while they're doing it. They're not just sent off on their own and go, here you go, good luck, hope you make it. There's support teachers there and pieces built into the model to help with those. It expands exposure to employer needs. So if you're working with employers and they come to you, like we talked about, the bank came, they were the ones that said, we need tellers, we need loan officers, we need these things. Okay, well, let's figure out how we make that work. And so you're helping the employer, which makes them more likely to help you get what you need and help the students and their employers. But that could be in terms of equipment. When you were talking about manufacturing or welding, there's some updates that have happened in manufacturing in the last 20 years. And so maybe you just need to know what those updates are. What does that look like? In IT, constant, changing, new AI stuff coming out all the time. You need the employers to be able to tell you, I need my students, my new staff to be able to do this. Never heard of that. Let me find out what that is. Let me implement it for you. We can do that. As I said, it's in federal law. We're all supposed to be involved in this somehow. It's a research-based best practice for student-client success. Like I said, we've been doing it for 10 years. Washington State has been doing it for probably 15 years. I mean, and we modeled ours after theirs. They're not drastically different. I mean, so this is a tried and true model that can work for just about anybody. Again, we give you the mannequin. Do you decide if she or he is wearing a hat or a dress or pants or nothing? And you stick with the basics. Whatever, that's on you. Additional opportunities for employer involvement. If your employer is coming to you, take that opportunity. I mean, maybe they are helping you with curriculum on what equipment do you need to cover, what skills do they need. Maybe they're able to pay students some additional funding. Maybe they buy the equipment for welding, that we need this brand new equipment. We need our students to know how to use it, so we're going to buy the college one, we're going to buy your program one, so your students can train on the latest and greatest piece of equipment. So it can vary what that employer involvement looks like. Maybe they just come and talk about their HR practices. This is what an interview with our company looks like. These are questions that we're going to ask you. These are questions you can ask us. These are our expectations. I know a couple years ago, the big conversation was about, can I be on my phone all the time? No, you cannot. Put your phone away. But hearing it from Teacher Tara or Teacher Angela is not the same as hearing it from somebody who's going to fire you for being on your phone. And that reality is helpful for students to hear. It's not just us being teachers going, put your phone away for the 25th time. It's an employer going, you don't get 25 shots. You get one, and then you're out, or whatever their policy is on that. So hearing real life information from them. So employer involvement can be helpful, another helpful way to get that ICAPS up and going as well.
Okay, so what is the difference between a bridge and an ICAPS? I think Tara mentioned bridge earlier, so what is that? What does that mean? And again, we're doing high level here. So when we talk about bridge is very broad, right? So it's that healthcare, it's IT, it's manufacturing, it's that larger umbrella of career. When we talk about ICAPS, it's very specific and focused. So that's that phlebotomy, welding, culinary. So we kind of just wanted to lay that out there because you may hear bridge and ICAPS being mentioned, And so we just want to make sure we give you the tools and the terminology. When we say bridge, it's that larger, broader umbrella. When we say ICAPS, it's very specific to the career focus.
And the bridge programs happen within the adult education program. And then typically following a bridge is when a student would then go on to an ICAPS program where they're at a training partner with adult education support in the support class as well. So again, as a partner, as a training provider, sometimes you'll build back, and have adult ed do a bridge, a career bridge, a specific contextualized bridge, healthcare, to prepare students for an ICAPS, where they'll have both teaching components.
Okay, how does all this fit into the WIOA matrix? And I'm guessing Mark's going to end up with a microphone on this again because he's got way more information about this than I do. But I will start, and then I'll hand it to him. Bridges, as Tara said, I say they're standalone for the most part. They live within adult ed. They do not fall under WIOA for funding. Now, you can refer students to adult ed for bridges, but WIOA money cannot go to bridges. Is that correct, Mark? Does that sound right? Sort of.
I think we can help with the bridge if they're in one leading to a credential program that is on our exam basically.
Okay. So sort of.
We're still having some discussions to clarify. Yeah, sorry about that. If you're in a bridge program as a participant and the goal is to go on to Title I funded training that gets you a credential, Title I can support the bridge program. So there is a way. I'm pretty sure of that. If that's wrong, we'll make sure you find out. And we just had this discussion last week trying to get that clarified. But we do rely on them because we have limited funds. If this is what they're good at, let's go ahead and let them use their funds. But I'm sure they're limited funds too. So, it's all a work together kind of thing and figure out how best to use all the funds that are available. Partnerships, collaboration is always the key with this.
Agreed. So ICAPS falls under the training services for adults and dislocated workers and in youth program elements, education, career training. I know I copy pasted that right out of something I got from somebody over on the Title I side. But as a result, WIOA funding is allowable to be part of ICAPS. Now, I also know, as Mark mentioned earlier, there's federal level, there's state level, and there's also local level. And so local programs may or may not prioritize ICAPS, funding for ICAPS. It's the same way that adult ed programs may or may not prioritize a particular ICAPS. Mark may come to his local adult ed provider and go, I need an ICAPS in welding. And he's gonna work with Gina, and Gina goes, we have never done welding, I don't have students in welding, I don't have a CTE program in welding, I'm not doing it. I mean, it's not ideal, it doesn't build the partnership, but it's the reality is that she may have it and he doesn't, or she has it and he doesn't. So we know that there are some of those pieces out there, that it depends on some local. Did you have a question in the back? Yes.
So many, but no, I'm following.
Okay.
And taking notes.
Okay. Sure, I saw the like look hand go. Yeah. Do you need it because we're live streaming? Okay.
So I'm not even sure. Oh, thank you. I'm not even sure if it's a question.
Okay.
But I might want you to backtrack, if possible, on the way the funding works for bridges. You said bridges live in adult ed, or did I get it wrong?
No, bridges are offered in adult education.
Okay.
They're planned, they're approved, they're done with adult ed.
Yeah.
And adult ed funding can cover 100% of bridges. It can also cover, and again, I say the word can because we don't have huge pots of money either. It can also cover 100% of ICAPS. But on the ICAP side, there are lots of ways to partner with that financially. Bridges, to Mark's point, which I've not heard until today, what I've heard up until today was that WIOA funding should not be used for the bridge part of it. However, what Mark just said, I believe, is that if it's leading to an to a WIOA-funded ICAPS, then it's possible that you could use WIOA funding for the bridge.
It would be, in my thinking there is, it's like a,
Pipeline. Pipeline?
yeah, pipeline there, or a prerequisite or something of that nature. And so I will check with that, but I'm going back many years ago when I was in policy, which is where I'm getting my thoughts on bridge programs and developing our ETPL policy and guidance, and wanting to make sure we're pushing them, that this doesn't become a deterrent because we can't fund them. So I will make sure and hold to that unless you hear differently.
Right, so very simple words.
I actually added ICAPS, the MCC programs, McHenry County College, last year to our local ETPL, or well, state ETPL. So I worked with Jared List with him on that, and I think there's a couple more we're going to be looking at, but I think that's the same thing with, he has money to cover it, but we're there as like secondary, which is exactly kind of what we had gone into it. And actually the programs he already were looking at, we had already approved just as standalone. So it's just looking at it as the ICAPS add to it.
So you both mentioned ETPL. Can you say what you mean?
Eligible training provider list.
I knew I wasn't going to be able to come up with that. I've heard, but I couldn't. I was like, oh, I don't remember what that is. Okay. So here's what I can tell you about this slide. If you're WIOA, talk to your adult ed provider, talk to your local people, talk to your WIOA group, see what you can do. If you're adult ed, talk to your WIOA people, see what they can do. And if the WIOA people have questions, talk to Mark, because I didn't say any of this. Mark Burgess. No, go ahead. Okay, so this is Tara, but I will start this. So where am I at? Where do I start? So how many of you already have an ICAPS going? Okay, so I know you all are Title II. You raised your hand. What are you? So where are you? Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't recognize you. I'm like, I don't know who that is. Okay, so again, how many of you on the WIOA side, you said you're working with someone to do ICAPS. Is anybody else in WIOA working with your counterparts to do an ICAPS? Funding, planning? She is. Carly, you are, kind of. You are. You're working with your WIOA partners. You are WIOA, working with them to do an ICAPS. There you go.
So we partially use WIOA, so some of our students are on individual ITAs, and we put them into the ICAPS program for the barrier support and having an on-campus cheerleader. So it's not like they're paying for the whole cohort, but sometimes there's as much as half of our ICAPS class that is WIOA supported.
Fabulous.
We're going to talk about it. Come to our session at 4 o'clock.
There you go. Self-planning. She doesn't want to ruin the surprise.
Yes, no, that's great.
Tara, this was yours. Is there anything I missed?
No, it was just if anyone wanted to share, or if you also wanted to share, you know, when you get back, what are you going to do? If anyone feels so compelled. But you don't have to. That's okay. And actually, time-wise, we just have a little bit to wrap up anyway, so it's perfect.
Is this me?
Yes.
Oh, it'll be me.
Yep.
I got the mic. It's fine.
It's
so,
you.
if you're wondering, if you're sitting there, you're new to WIOA, you haven't heard this before, you don't know where your adult ed provider is, you're like, they're around me. I'm sure they're around me, but I don't know how to find them. So, check your LWIB, so your local workforce investment board list of partners. Adult ed is required to be part of that, so hopefully they're sitting at the table with you. Check your area planning council partners. They're required to be part of that, so hopefully they're on that list. Check the adult education provider website. If you're like, I don't know where to find any of those other things, you can go to this website, you type in your zip code, and it gives you all of the adult ed providers in your location and based on zip code and contact information. So if you're like, I'm not sure who And maybe you know there's 4, but you can only come up with 2 names. Then you can use that to find who the other 2 are and how do you contact them. Because just like I'm sure in Title II, I know Title II has had a lot of turnover with staff. I'm guessing Title I, III, and IV has also had a little bit of turnover in the last couple years. So the name that you might have had may not still be the right name because they may not be there. On any title, take your pick. So there's that. And then if you have questions about the ICAPS framework, like policy type, like what does this look like and how do I do that and what's allowable, that would be to reach out to me. I'm Angela Gerberding right there with my email, my phone number. I will tell you, email me before you call me because I am still working remote 2 days a week. And if you call that number, it's going to send you to an email that I'm going to see at home and I'm going to have to call you anyway. So start with the email. Or if you've got how you can all collaborate together, how Title II and other titles can collaborate, what that looks like at like a higher level than me type of thing, you would want to talk to Dr. Kathy Olson-Tracy. She is our Senior Director of Adult Education. She is ICCB's Title II point person. And so she would be able to go, oh, yeah, this is what Mark's talking about, and this is how this works, and this is what you can do with Department of Rehab Services, and this is, I don't have that information. That's a lot of information. I don't even want to store it in my brain. So check with Kathy. And again, if you've got other questions, there's another link to the website that you can take a look at.
I'm just thinking, let's use the Hoove app. So when I get an answer on the bridge, I will post it in the chat for this session. So check later today, maybe tomorrow. I'm going to track down my 2 people out here that 1 or 2 should have the answer to that. So we'll get you an answer one way or the other. We will clarify. So I'll post the question and then post the response about whether Title I can actually fund the bridge side of that training.
And all of our contact information is in the app. We would love to hear from you. And thank you so much for coming to this
Is that
session.
the last slide? It is. I thought it was.
Is there anything in the chat or anything, Brittany, that we need to acknowledge?
No, a lot of shout outs to the various programs, and we've got people from some of the programs that we mentioned on here, so they were excited.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.